Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Inforunners podcast. And today we're going to be discussing some new news. Execute.
Yeah, so there was a production update released today for 3.1, along with what the kind of plans are for the rest of the year. And this kind of leads on from our kind of predictions from the 2018 episode that we did. And so we're going to kind of go over it today. And it is, I'm going to start out by saying it's kind of really in line with what I expected it to be. There's nothing too bold here. And looking at with development in mind, I think it's all really reasonable, and I think it's very doable, and I actually think it's something that they could possibly, like, such a reasonable goal that they could possibly even exceed this. So we'll see how it goes, but we should kind of break it down and go through it. It's not too long. It's only about a page long.
And
but,
probably the biggest thing we'll find out of this is it sets out, because they're talking about when they're doing builds. It gives us a time frame of when they're going to do game wipes and start afresh. So each new build will be starting back with our 0 or 2,500 or 5,000 do we see whatever they started with. But with that, let's break it down and see what they say.
Well, the first thing really is that when you look at it, the first part really is mainly optimization. That's really what, when you look at it, it's just getting things that they have in working right. So it's not too exciting.
No, well, I think most of that is kind of a part of the game development. We've got our core foundation there. It is now starting to build the structure within inside that framework to fill out the nuts and bolts of the whole structure, so to speak.
That's
so
right.
most of game development is optimization. You know, you build the skeleton and then start to fill in the meat and potatoes of the whole structure. So that's going to be an ongoing thing. And one of the things that I think really leads credence to, I was saying it to you guys before we aired, is they're not really going to go that far. A lot of people think they expect them to, like, now they got Stanton, just to go out and do multiple systems really quickly. I think the smart thing to do is just have one system and build everything that works within there, and then very rapidly expand out. It'll be a bit like the Big Bang, get it all working, and then just poof, it explode and multiply very quickly. But you only need a sandbox for us to test this stuff. You don't need all these different systems. In fact, I probably expect that we'll probably only see 2 systems near the end, so they can test jump points. And that's just how I'd be doing it, and I think that's how they're going to do it as well.
Well, the thing is, with their quarterly releases, it gives them that extra ability to take things out. And I even specifically mentioned this. Hey, unlike with 3.0, when things weren't working, when we just had to hold off on it, now we'll just release what we can and bump everything else down the road, which is really going to help out. And it's also going to help out, think, with bugs now with the Delta patcher. There's probably going to be a lot of micro patches I wouldn't be surprised to see between now and the major releases.
No, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I think
What did I take over?
I think we'll find that if they do those minor patches, Delta patcher does offer that. Big thing is, while they say, hey, first one we're going to do is get the optimization going. In the second patch in June, we'll get the mining and scanning and all the other things in. And with that, while it sounds awesome they're going to do that, it's likely that some of those things won't make it, and they'll just push them off and do them in third quarter. And that's fine. But the Delta patcher does enable them to do that, and that's probably the biggest thing that they've got. But that, and the fact that each of these are updates for the game, I think that's where we'll actually wipe the game and start us again and do new content, as opposed to just doing other things.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of deleting of accounts and stuff like that, and especially where even a real simple example of how easy it is to get money with cargo runs now. They're not going to want you to have this huge influx of money and then go into an update and just be able to, boom, got it all, and now I'm going to wait 3 months for the next content. I think it's very much they're going to want to see how quickly you earn money and in different forms and balance it. So running cargo is very similar as in doing missions. You get a very similar amount of cash.
Well, the thing is, look
Go on.
look specifically at the first stuff. Remember how I said it's kind of boring because it's a lot of glossing over and work, but if you look at it, there's one thing in there that is interesting. A balanced pass of the economy. And that right there backs up we're going to be seeing so many wipes that you'll probably get people kind of irritated. Just saying.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how people reacted to this kind of beta test environment or alpha or QA testing environment as a whole. But now we're really getting into a period where we can actually be more readily testing stuff. It's going to be interesting to see how many complaints we're up. Oh, they just deleted all. They keep deleting all their accounts all the time, and that there is a real disparity between those that understand it and those that don't. And I find that kind of interesting, and I'm just kind of interested to see. I think a lot of YouTubers and stuff like that, people like ourselves, will basically make it clear people need to understand that this is a game in progress. And I always look at other games like Ark and what that's done, and I think if we can even roughly follow what they've laid out, I think we'll be fine with Star Citizen.
Yeah, like while I don't play Ark any longer, when it was in the early development, they were, you had wipes of accounts and restarting quite often. And as it developed, those wipes became less and less. But there are times it did get frustrating. But then, when you knew it was in development and you knew it was early access, the rest of it, you just took that with a grain of salt and said, "Oh well, no, they fixed up that bug now. Awesome."
If they make it so they can delete accounts and leave your money in that alone, that might be a way they could get around it. There's a few ways they can get it.
Well, they need to actually wipe your money because, honestly, if you're balancing the economy, you need to get rid of all those mega millionaires, or you're going to have billionaires by the time the thing goes by, and it's going to be really hard to test things as you have people breaking your economy in their caterpillars.
Well, it kind of depends on
because we're still using Alpha ECU.
Depends what you're testing too. That's also, like, if you are testing the economy, yeah. But if you're testing just ships on that update, then what's it got to do with money?
But people who complain about having the money wipe, they've got to remember we are currently using Alpha ECU. This is money that is going to get wiped. It's not the money that it's not the account money you start with. It's money you earn, and it is going to get wiped before the game goes live. And the sooner people remember that, the happier they're going to be. This is the alpha money. This is the money that is going to keep coming and going. Get used to it.
So should we go through the production report here just a little bit?
Well, we kind of went over the first part of it, so let's talk about June, because that's really where things pick up.
Well, I kind of just want to say there's going to be 4 big updates. We've got March, June, September, and December. And the reason why Dice has mentioned June is June seems to be the really big one.
June is where content really gets added, I think, rather than optimization, but rather than behind the scenes stuff. June is where we start to see.
You'll see new ships in every update, but the real meat and potatoes, as in new gameplay, will really sounds like it'll come around June. And this is the other thing that they don't mention in the update is they literally say tier. So I'm just going to find it here.
Tier 0.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the exact thing. So basically, they're going to be implementing Tier 0 versions of mining, salvaging, mobile refueling, and repair in June, right? But that also means in September and December, we may see updates to those.
Well, the question is, and this is something that I'm wondering how many people have been asking, they're saying the starting of repair. Are we just talking about hand repair, or are we maybe thinking that the Crucible may actually be farther along than what we've been led to believe?
No, I think it'll be hand repair.
I think it'll be that.
And when you say when you look at stuff like mining and stuff like that, it's probably going to be almost always in its most basic form, and it's depend what they've deemed the most basic form. So, what's more complex, mining with a prospector or mining by hand? And you got to look at that and see what's the main one. See, most people when they repair, they're going to repair with a hand tool, but when most people mine, they're probably going to do it with shit.
And you need a prospector to be able to do it, because right now the prospector's in game, and what can it do? Literally, what can that ship do besides fly around and have a great cockpit view?
It's a good explorer at the moment because it's got a great cockpit view. So yeah,
yet it eats fuel like nothing else on the planet.
And the other thing with the with our system, dang, I'm showing old age, just on blank.
Yeah. well, we've still got, you know, you got mining there as well that we talked about just now, but you've got salvaging and mobile refueling. So we're going to finally see some good use of the Starfarer as well, which I'm really looking forward to, because we haven't really seen, like, think about when that went into the game. That was almost, what, 2 years ago now? Or am I a year out? But a year or two ago. And I remember they had the pipe that kind of hangs off the back, and that's totally disappeared. And so I'm interested to see the mechanic of what it's going to be like to be out on the back of that Starfarer and actually start
able to refuel a ship,
refueling some ships, and then, you know, obviously salvage with the Reclaimer. So that, I think that's a really big tip of the hat to the Reclaimer. Will be going in by June, which is really exciting.
I'm really interested to see how the drones work, because that's one of the biggest things I'm excited about the Reclaimer on, is how are drone mechanics going to work in this game?
Well, it's tier 0. The drones might not even work. It might just be you grab it with a claw and it chucks it in the back and it's gone. Like, it could be that. It could be that simple.
Doesn't necessarily need to mean the Reclaimers coming in June.
And if you also
if you're doing 0 level,
well, that is true, but it is a bit
if
of
you're doing the 0 level salvaging.
You need a ship though to do it.
Yeah, you've got your cutlass and you've got the track beam on it. You suck it into the cargo hold of it.
We don't even have
track
beam.
Take it in, you know.
We don't even have track.
So,
what I was going to say though is, if you look at the repair tool and they do it by hand, I think what Algrid's trying to allude to is, if they're doing repair by hand, they could very simply do salvage by hand. Is that what you're trying to say, Algrid?
Yeah, and also that also reminded me of the repair bit. With zero repair, multi-crew ships, going to be doing it by hand, changing components out, doing that type of stuff. So I think we'll see that. I think that's definitely something they'll bring in and do. You can already change out the components in our ships before we fly them. So this will be a matter of, hey, I've got a spare, I can put it in, and hey, I can maybe repair that item. So.
Well, there's one other big thing besides all these tier 0s which are here, and I will just read this out loud so you can hear it. It goes on like this: as well as give the player, keyword is as well as give the player the ability to create their own missions, like hiring mercs, transport, or refueling missions. That is big.
Is that the service beacons? That
will be the service beacons.
Yeah, that used to be in the old 3.1, so I'm expecting to see that maybe by June as well. And it makes sense, especially if you're putting all that gameplay in. Yeah, I think fundamentally the thing we really need to take away from this year is we're finally going to get some real gameplay. Like, yeah, cargo is kind of great. It is a big upgrade, and I think you're already kind of seeing that economic stuff, the different missions, and most people I talk to are just doing cargo runs in 3.0 because it's quite fun. But it's going to be interesting to see, because the other thing is, once they get those service beacons in, you're going to see piracy, you're going to see bounty hunting, and you're going to see escorting. So those professions are naturally going to pop in as well, which is kind of cool, to be honest.
Although, because once they got the service beacon, you'll be able to set up a job for someone and actually say, "Hey, I'm going to pay you." That'll be something that's coming in, and that'll be huge.
The big thing is paying your crew, because right now, if I am in a crew position on a ship, and we're going to do a cargo run, there's literally no personal benefit to me besides helping a friend by being in a turret on a Caterpillar, or being a shield operator, or being in one of those positions.
That's right.
And this means,
whereas if I've got my Connie and I want a crew, I can put out a service beacon and say, "Hey guys, I'm after crew for my Connie."
I think they allude to that
in
the last paragraph as well. They actually say in late December, in the here it says, fill their crew choices to do many different types of missions, either with their friends or on their own. So it looks like they're looking at, by December next year, having in multiplayer missions, which will be, I think it's going to be a really playable state by the end of the year. Still a small universe, and they do say they're going to start to fill out the stat system. So that seems to me, I think we'll see ArcCorp and Hurston. I don't think we might see the start of Crusader and Microtech, but I don't think it'll be playable by the end of the year. I think that's a bit. We'll see.
If they bring in the refueling and the refueling mechanic and the mechanic for the Starfarer, I actually think we'll see some aspect of
Crusader.
Crusader, just because
Or
of
that
guy.
nebula. You can actually see a nebula easily from Olisar.
That's Pyro.
Ah,
That's the next.
pardon my
Pyro
ignorance.
system.
Yeah, no, that's right. Pyro will. We've talked about this before. We highly suspect that the next system we will see is Pyro, which is there's this line of systems as well that all connect between Terra and Earth, wasn't it, Alfred? Something like that. And there's about 8 or 9 systems in a row. And Stanton's kind of near the middle, and as you go towards Terra or Earth, Pyro is in that line.
Yeah.
And the fact that we can see Pyro tells us that they've probably been working on the effects for that. We also know from ATVs they've worked on Pyro as well, so it makes a lot of sense to me that Pyro would be one of the next ones along.
Yes.
And I think it also Pyro also not only does it lead to Terra, but it also leads to system where Delamar is actually.
Oh, Nyx. You mean where Nyx is?
Nyx.
Yeah. So at
Yeah.
least, no, you're right. Nyx is one of the ones on that line. Yeah.
And
100%.
so once they get that open, then Delamar will leave Stanton and go into.
Yeah. So it's like you can kind of see their roadmap now, and it's starting to unfold, which is really awesome. I think from our prediction show, they haven't really done anything that I'm really surprised by today. The thing that kind of did surprise me is how much gameplay is coming in June. That we were expecting mining, and now we've gone from mining to salvaging, mobile refueling, and repair. That's the stuff I was expecting over the entire course of the year. I just wasn't expecting it smack bang.
It won't be in June. I think that's the earliest possible occasion. I really think that's how CIG does things. That's the earliest possible.
Well, it says here.
I think for those.
It actually says, look, for our end of year June release, we plan to implement the initial. So I think they will have it ready to go in June. They've got 6 months.
I think they want it. They want it in June, and they'll certainly get some of those. I think they'll certainly get the
mining.
The mining in. I think they might get repair in.
And if we don't
they might get 1 or 2 of those in. They might not get them all in, but they're going to aim for them. If they don't get them in, what's going to happen to those things?
September.
They'll go to September.
Yeah.
And they'll just keep working on them. And that's their new model. And they're not saying, okay, we locked in these 4 features for June. Oh, we haven't got them ready yet. We're going to hang on to them and not release that June update until we got them ready. They're going to say, okay, this is June. These are the aspects that are ready to go. The rest of them are going into September. And that's the key thing that I think that Chris has been saying for the last at least 3 months at least. That's the key thing.
If you read in chat, Darren says there that Chris Roberts has stated that Pyro is going to be one of the next systems we'll get access to.
Yeah, but we actually said too. Anyway.
It's where I heard it from as well,
Darren,
but I just can't remember, so I didn't quote where I had heard it from. Because you quote stuff and people like, leak.
Yeah, where's your link? Where's your proof?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, the other thing that's actually interesting is also the fact that, and let me find this again, there's another, lane claims are actually, they're trying to get them in this year. And that actually surprised me. Legitimately, lane claims in a environment where you're wiping things.
Well, it sounds like they want people to buy more of them. They didn't sell any. Hey, if we put it in early, they'll have to buy it.
Well, will you keep it or will it get wiped? That's the thing.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you do a land
one.
claim, if you get a land claim, it gets wiped, then you've got your land claim, because until the game goes live, anything we've got doesn't get lost.
Man, you can imagine some awesome trolling though. This guy gets an awesome base set up. They do a wipe, and you've just seen where he built it, and you just fly straight back, and he gets there and goes, "You bastards!" Yeah. So,
I want to see the person that builds on the javelin or goes nom 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 on the javelin with their claim.
Just a real quick question. Nanny said the ability to pay your crew. When we were talking about service beacons, Canny, coming in December, they've stated in this report, that'll definitely allow you to pay your crew because you'll be able to do a contract with someone and say, here, you do this with me and I'll give you the money. Bang.
Yeah.
So that's paying your crew.
I would imagine that's how you do it. You'd pay your crew. You'd say, I've got a job to do. Come and join me. I'll pay you this much. And then you'll be able to put it's only for clan or org. It's only for people of good, bad, or whatever. Rep.
Yeah. I just want to say, any questions that we don't answer, like if we see them come up and we're like they're not on topic at the moment, we'll answer them all
We'll
at the
answer
end.
'em.
That's what we usually do. So there's a few others there that we'll answer in the end. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I do want to mention
back
one thing
on
that's
point.
missing.
Mhm.
That's really big. I did not see anything in here about being able to purchase ships. And I remember a while back, was it Aaron Roberts that mentioned in one of the interviews saying, hey, 3-1, you'll be able to purchase ships, but it'll, of course, get wiped. Or something around that manner. I remember that. Do you remember the more precise quote?
Basically, they want you to be able to buy ships from 3.1 because the gameplay is going in. So I think 3.1 is no longer July. I think it's more. Sorry, not. I mean March. It's more likely going to be June. So when that gameplay goes in, this is especially for testing purposes. And think about how much this will piss you off, right? So just think about it if it's not like this. If you don't have the ability to test those new gameplay mechanics because you simply don't own said ship, how mad are you going to get? So to curb that, they make it so you have to work your ass off with whatever ship you have to earn money. Then you can buy said ship and then go test it. And that I think that is 100% how it'll be. So I think you can very safely say when those new gameplay comes in, either they're going to give everyone a ship or ability. So even if, for example, say they brought in mining and you can mine by hand and you can mine in a prospector, if you don't own the prospector, you'll be able to do it by hand. They're going to make it so there's a way for everyone to participate. Yeah. So you just got to logically think through. They're not. Could you imagine the backlash?
But they didn't mention it here.
Just mining. Yeah, but they didn't. But they've mentioned it before. So if they just brought out mining, and prospect, Algrid owns a prospect and we don't, can you imagine how the backlash from all the people that wouldn't be able to do it? They'd be like, "Oh, this is shit. I waited 6 months for this, and now I wait another 6 months for repair, or whatever." I'm pretty sure they're going to make it so there's a way you can get access to ships by June.
Yeah.
I agree with Darren on that one. Or just borrow Hayes' fleet.
Hayes doesn't have mining ships. Hayes doesn't like mining.
He doesn't like mining, but he does have one Orion. He's got one Orion. I know that for a fact. He's got at least one of all the big ones.
Hayes is your cargo hauler. He loves cargo.
Man, if he could have a whole E that carried whole E's, he would have it. Oh, he has too many whole E's. He's when I heard he had that radio, I was just like, what? Okay, yeah. So, man, he's got fat controller syndrome or something. Like, I can just see these huge space. Yeah, that's crazy.
I think that's Hayes' new call sign.
Yeah, fat controller.
Yeah.
You know what? We found out that he's coming to Sydney, Algrid. Did you hear about that? Has he told you yet? Yeah. We'll get him a top hat and monocle. You'll know. And we'll have like a ribbon that says "Fat Controller" on it. That'd be great. Yeah. All right. See if we'll get something together by I think it's March, but yeah, we'll see what come up. Remind me. We'll work on it. Yeah. So
are we ready for questions?
I don't know. Unless you guys have got anything else to add, as I said, I think it's very. I don't think it's safe. I think it's what I expected. Is there anything that was unexpected for you guys? I guess I was asking, and I'd ask that of Chad as well. Is there anything that was unexpected in the production report? And I will link it very quickly, so if people have not seen it, they can see it. I'm going to do it through. There you go. That's me in chat. That would have just come up.
Yep. I didn't think there was anything overly bad. It starts off with a statement, hey, we've got the new system enables us to do this is why we've done it. And I think that also helps, again, just explain why it took so long to get 3.0 out. They had to get those base systems in. Now we've got that base core stuff done, they can do things a lot easier and a lot. And so the first one, okay, we're going to optimize, we're going to use all the information guys they've given us, then they're going to add more features. And if it's not ready, we'll just move it off to the next one. So
I think the only thing I'd add to that, Algrid, is, like Chris said in the director's commentary of the Vertical Slice, is they spent a lot of this year putting tech in, and I think you and I and Dyson would definitely agree, this game has a lot of tech in it that's never been in another game before. and there's still
Yeah.
more to go. Like we got the
Yeah, that's
network
right.
server meshing.
At the end of the year, it may be a full game.
You know,
Yeah,
you look at the things that they added. You know, like 2 years ago. You know, procedural planets weren't even a thing. Not going to happen. Something we can't do. The 64-bit stuff. You know, the large maps. Not that impossible. You can't do it. Objects in objects. You can't do it. It can't be done. And time and time again, they've written code, they've done this, added it in, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. And you look at that stuff as it goes in, and you go, well, how's it going to be used? And I can't see it being used, and that's behind the scenes. It's working for everything.
Yeah. So that's the thing about video games as a whole. 90% of it you never see. And if they've done their job properly, it's a seamless transition for you guys. When you do notice it is when you get that same bug over and over and over, like you're playing some game and you just keep getting that disconnect error. That disconnect error could be 100 different problems, but you just get the same one because it's on your end. That's the problem.
I am hoping though that they don't wait for it to do a wipe or whatever of PU to fix the bouncing ball.
Oh my!
I hope they actually get that done a lot earlier. If they need to do a wipe to fix the bouncing ball,
Please explain that to everyone, because I know we're all familiar with it, but what about our audience here? What's the bouncing ball?
okay, the bouncing ball is a bug that we think it happens if you change your armor a few times or change your helmet a few times. You end up becoming just a little white ball, not wearing it, so all your rig is everything to do with your character is gone, just a mark by a little ball. You can run around the station, you can interact with the terminal, but you can't actually go outside because you don't have a spaceship to die. So you're just stuck in the terminal wherever you are. And yeah, you can't get around it. In Evocati and in PTU, if you got that bug, what you did is you deleted your account and reapplied it. But in the PU, we can't delete the account, so there's no workaround we've got to work with that. So at the moment, only resolve is for CIG to actually either wipe the account or do a fix that fixes it. And yeah, I hope they fix it sooner than later.
I just relinked that link because I was logged in as me. It'll only work for me. So yeah, I've just relinked it. Sorry about that for the other links, guys.
Well,
Apologies if it didn't work for you.
just saying with that bug though, we finally got Spaceballs the video game. Sorry, really bad one.
But boom, ching. Yeah. You should go on that. There's this. Sorry, speaking of video games, there's this video game you can play where you actually do stand-up comedy and people play in the crowd.
Oh
and if enough
yes.
people gong you, get kicked off. You should go do that. You should be like, dung. See ya. Anyway,
it's a cool-looking game, actually. All right, so let's start out.
Let's go on to questions. So scroll back down to the bottom of the restream chat, Dyson, and just go through the ones and
I'm
with questions.
scrolling up. All right, this is actually a really good one right here. Every major patch wipe is fine while it's in alpha. Beta, should progress persist? Your thoughts? Ooh, this is a good one right here. Execute, you're the game dev.
I think that kind of really depends on what they're testing. I think the game itself has to always become before everything else.
I think in alpha, every time I do a patch, it probably gets wiped, whether they're testing economy or something else. But I think once they get the beta, it'll probably still be using the alpha ECU. But it'll be, if we're testing economy, we might do it. If we need to rebalance, we might do it.
Yeah.
But once we get live, alpha ECU disappears and we're back onto the proper stuff. So.
It's really going to come down to the need. Like, if they don't need to wipe it to test something, they won't. But if they're testing an economy, like you said earlier, Dyson, yeah, then they'll need to wipe it. And as Algrid said, you've got the alpha UEC. It's there because we're in alpha. There's nothing to say, hey, we've never heard of this, but there's nothing to say they don't do beta UEC. So when time's ready, they'll swap it around.
Back in a minute.
No worries.
But personally, I think they're probably going to go with that. Maybe once a year cycle if they go beta, or maybe outside of maybe specific things they have to deal with, because it would make sense then to start testing long-term economies,
No,
not the short-term.
I'm going to go with the term when it's done, when it's ready. There's no fixed date on this stuff, and I think they've kind of got to the point where, you know, where they're talking about the quarter release schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're not going to have to give dates. They can just say, "Hey, it'll be ready when it's ready."
Sorry about that, guys.
It's all good. So they'll just go, oh, "Okay, it's it's coming sometime soon. It'll be out in the next couple of patches." So they can be a bit more relaxed with their dates now. It's going to take the pressure off, and also very clearly they've kind of said, "Oh, if it doesn't make it for this patch, it'll go on to the next one." So they can just take their time with stuff now and not be stressed, because they know that we'll be happy enough because we'll be seeing something every 3 months.
Yeah. As soon as we see something every 3 months, whether it's a ship, whether it's just whatever.
It's the same thing along since the beginning, Agrid. It's as long as we're seeing progress, we don't care. And I've always taken that. As long as I see forward momentum, I've never really been stressed. I'm like, yeah, if it takes them 20 years, it takes them 20 years, as long as it gets there. And let's be honest, how much backward movement have you seen? And the only backward movement I can really drastically think of was Star Marine. And that was when they kind of went, oh, we have to piss these guys off and make a whole new thing. And let's be honest, I think it's worked out better, to be honest.
Well, I think part of the problem they had with Star Marine and Phonic was the fact that they were using the wrong metric. And, you know, and it's not the first time that they'd used the wrong metric. That's why the Beatrice group. Yeah. Because Church, when he was doing the design of the Beatrice, initially used the wrong size, used the old model of the Hornets that didn't fit.
Same thing with game development. Every time you make something new and no one's ever done it before, you got to learn how to do it. It's that simple.
You know, so I don't think it was necessarily that bad in terms of Ilphonic stuff. That I think there were lots of problems that went on, and I think that that wrong metric meant everything they built, all the Golden Horizon station and all the other stuff, it was built to the wrong metric. It was built to fit a Redeemer, not to fit. Not the rest of the verse.
You've got to not look at it like it. In the sense, I've heard people say things like, "Oh, that's such a waste. We never got to see any of that stuff." You think of a movie. How much of the film, when they film it, hits the cutting room floor? It's the same thing.
A good hunk of it.
You know, what's that old saying? You've got to squeeze a few lemons or destroy a few lemons to make some lemonade.
Writers, you know,
you have to break a few eggs.
Writing, they say.
That's it. Break a few eggs to make an omelette or whatever.
And if you're writing, they say you've got to write 10 pages before you get 1 page of good stuff.
Yep.
You know, so it's not backward. It's just that we weren't seeing that development, and that's what was annoying people. But the development was there, and you see that with what we've got now. All that long delay has given us those long jumps, given us the trade, has given us the ships, given us the...
I think it really is also really clearly the end of these huge, massive, the drought, what we called last year the drought. I think being to see more regular updates is a good thing. And the other thing that I've said to you guys,
quick
and
bug
Hayes
fixes
said as
overall.
well, is we've got the Delta patch now. There's no reason we won't see patches between 3.1 and 3.2 as an example. There's nothing to say that, okay, this didn't make it for 3.1, but we've now got it ready and it's 2 weeks later. Here you go. Like, there's nothing to say they have to do it every quarter either. They could literally just do it when it's ready. And I don't know about you guys, but I think what they're trying to state with the quarter releases is they're going to optimize it once a quarter. Because when you do builds in development, there's no point optimizing it because no one's playing it. I think one of the things that may potentially make this game take longer to come out is the fact people are playing it while it's being developed. And people expect at least a certain standard. And we've even seen it with 3.0 since Christmas. There's been a lot of bitching. I can't play it. I get 1 frame per second, blah, 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 blah. It's like, but that's the nature of the game. And, and
it's not a game at this point in time. It's literally a tech demo / what most people would have called in the past the dev build, because this is.
But let me just finish. There are people that a lot of people are complaining don't have very high end systems for one, and I had a slight argument with someone about this over the weekend, and he was a new backer. And what I was trying to explain to him is, if you're looking at a game in game development and say, let's take a typical game, it's 3 years. If you start building that compute on a really high-end computer in the first year, by the time you get to the 4th year, that is a low-end computer.
Yep.
Right? So what I'm trying to say now is, if you can't play it now, and I'm playing it okay on a really high-end system, my system will be a low-end system by the time this game comes out. And he couldn't grasp that concept, because in his mind, the game is out. It is out. If it's playable, it's a game. So, yeah, you got to understand, if it's shit now, I'm sorry, but it's kind of tough titties, because they're not making it later on. They're not making it for you, they're making it for you in the future. And you've just got to get that into your head. And the other thing that people kind of hate is they go, well, we don't know how far away it is. And I think you could safely say, at this point, it's within the next 4 years. You are definitely going to get a Squadron 42 and some version of the PU in the next 4 years.
I would actually say the PU is actually going to be fairly functional, hopefully at the end of this year, based on this report. And I don't mean like what we've been promised. I mean by what I would actually consider a good game, actually spending $40-something on outright.
Well, even at the moment, you know, is there an end game at the moment? Yes, there is. The end game is doing those mission givers. Because you log into the game at the moment and you go to the Levski, if you haven't done X number of missions beforehand to build up rep, you can't. You know, Eckhart's not going to talk to you. So you need to get those missions done beforehand. Which missions they are, I can't tell you. I've only done 1 or 2, and I kind of mate. I'll do trade runs now.
I think you'll also find, like, the first real big thing we're going to see is Squadron 42, and I think that will be optimized as shit. And I think you can kind of also safely say, the first act of Squadron 42 compared to the second and the third, you're going to get graphical advances as you go up. And I think the PU also over time is going to do the same. I think it's kind of going to just move with the same development of this Squadron.
That's the beauty of the Delta Patcher right there. I mean, the Delta Patcher allows you to update. Look at the graphics nowadays. If you played your patch 2, and then you go to this 3.0, the graphics are dramatically different. You walk up to something and you're like, man, those are nice textures. When beforehand you're like...
not that they were bad before, though, but that just shows you progression. And that's something we should all be looking forward
it's
to.
Why
compare 3.0 to the old hangar.
Squadron 42 vertical slice.
Hangars, you know?
It's why I'm glad they waited on it.
Slice, like,
Squadron 42 vertical slice from December, and the Morotor. Night and day, again. And even then, like, when you looked at the Morotor, it wasn't super bad. Like, it was probably Half-Life, so it was probably like 15 years old look, but as the time moves forward and the graphics cards, it's just such a hard thing to drill into people, but some people don't want to learn about games, they just want to play them. So I think CIG is kind of doing well. They're trying to educate to the people that want to learn and want to understand how the games work, and I think they're just going to have to tolerate. There's always going to be some kind of flack there, whether it's coming from Derek Smart or someone else. There's always going to be that naysayer there, and you also we know this being people that have backed the game, but also if you look at how do I put this? We have friends that don't want to buy into the game because they're not sure the game is going to succeed still, even at this point. And I think there's people that will literally not buy into it to hit store shelves type of thing. Like, I know people that don't buy digital games. They only buy things from shelves. Because if they can hold it and it's there in their hands, it's theirs. But if it's on their computer, lightning could strike and it's gone. Like, so, it's just, So there are people out there, and dare I say they are paranoid. Let them be paranoid. If they want to, let people do them. That's just how it is. But I think eventually, as time goes on, and you would have seen this, Algrid and Dyson, as time's gone on, more and more people have come on board. Yes. Because and look at the things that have hit us. We've kind of the two real big ones at the moment are the Derek Smart stuff that happened a couple of years ago. That's never really has it really ever gone away?
No, I still see interviews. I saw an interview as of 2 months ago or something like that, right after the Crytek.
Yeah, and now the Crytek stuff, that's the other stuff.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I'm going to be honest, I was never worried about Derek Smart. Like, I always just went, oh my God, like this guy, he's never really made a game. He's trying to ride the hype train and bring people over to his game.
look.
It almost looked like, what's that saying? Bad, there's no promotion like bad promotion or something. You know what I mean? Like, he's using bad promotion to try and promote his own shit, basically.
Well, I hadn't heard about Derek. I didn't know who Derek Smart was when I mentioned. And I was watching one of the videos. Oh yeah, you know, interesting points, yeah. And then he said, my game, Battle Cruiser, 30,000 AD. Second he said that, he was gone. He was dead to me. I had that game. It was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You couldn't play it. It was useless. And I thought, hang on. You made that game and you're saying how good you are? No, forget it.
You know, if we keep saying this, we're going to be summoning him. It's like Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't fear him. We don't fear him. He should not be named.
But look,
he's useless.
But Crytek, we don't know the full weight and extent of that. But from the show that we did, I would say safely, it really kind of does have a smell of desperation. Let's put it that way.
They can't even pay their own debts.
but I think we'll find out in the next couple of months how that's going to go. But we might not see that. Like, if they're going to go through the courts, that might... You know the United States courts better than us.
It's slow. 2 years from now, we could hear about it. But by 2 years from now, they could be completely bankrupt. But then again, we could also hear about something later on. Because... just gonna say, going to that Crytek stuff for just a second. The thing that got me is they can't pay their employees. They haven't paid quite a bit of their employees in forever. Yet somehow, miraculously, there's enough money to pay a lawyer so they could get a quick payout probably to do the scummiest thing ever, which is not pay their people, but to give their investors a bunch of money and then leave.
Well, it is now owned by a different group, and they are going into cryptocurrency of some form.
It's weird.
That actually, Algrid, that what you've just said there is probably the most reasonable thing that makes the most sense. They are owned by a new group of people that are new investors, and they're like, how can we refund our investment? And they've looked at CIG and gone, oh, we can just sue these bastards, and they've got shitloads of money. And I've seen it time and time again when one group breaks away from another, and then one of the groups dies and they didn't properly disconnect from the other group, and so when they're brought out by investors or they're trying to reclaim funds, like even financial managers that come in, they will try and get the other group, like, and if this other group's become really successful, they'll just milk the shit out of it and go, we own you, give us all the money. And it's happened a few times. I've seen things fall apart because proper paperwork was not done. But in this case, we know they fully brought the engine in 2013. As far as I'm concerned, the only period where they could sue them is from 2011 to 2013. The whole engine's been redone since then, and they've moved on to the lumberyard. I think the whole thing kind of fell apart where they said they were going to do it. They probably paid initially for a really cheap engine, but it sounds like they've paid for it again in full. Now, here's the thing. Was that full engine still at a discounted price with those contractually obligations?
Well,
and if it, then there may be a problem. That it really depends on how that contract was done to buy the full engine, in my book, when you break it down.
Well, the other thing is, and just hypothetically, worst case scenario, the only issue that I saw is Amazon Lumberyard is built off of CryEngine in a way, with parts of it, and that's my big thing. Is like, just hypothetically speaking, let's say they got a U.S. judge to do, and somehow through legal voodoo, say, hey, you have to put a halt on everything using the CryEngine. The question is, would they still be able to use Lumberyard while the case is going out, or would that? Which is
still CryEngine.
Yeah,
I think Hayes really nailed a lot of stuff too when he said in the show that when we talked about this at length, Amazon, it is really in Amazon's interest to go to bat for CIG. I honestly think at some point they're either gonna how do I put this? It's gonna be so obvious that they're gonna win in court, or they're just gonna pay them off so they piss off. either one, I'm kind of happy.
Well, even if they're innocent or guilty, they're probably going to get settled out just to get rid of all the... Because it's cheaper to settle in court when you think about it sometimes, because think about the legal costs. Like, I forgot what number was thrown around. I think I've heard for just like a normal lawsuit of 2 people.
Minimum.
Yeah, you're talking...
No, that's what Crytek said. They said at least costs them $75,000.
Well, I'm saying, but that's just legal costs. I'm not talking about what they would minimum.
Oh, okay.
I'm not talking about what Crytek, and it's actually more than that because they actually have a lot more damages listed. Leonard French did a great video on it, and he actually said it's not 75,000. It's that's the baseline for part of it, not including the other set of damages. But the thing
that
is,
was the reason why it was at that court level, because it was more than 75,000 rather than less than 75,000. It would have been at a different court level, as I understand.
But what I'm saying is, just to sue someone in court, you're looking at probably around $100,000, and that's probably a low estimate right there. And what I'm saying is, it's probably cheaper just to say, here, have $75,000. Let's not drain each of us $100,000 plus in court, and then roll the dice.
I think we kind of need to table this now, because this is where we've come up to end of the other show. It really is now. We need to wait for CIG's response and then talk about it, because we're going back over everything. This show has turned into that previous show.
It's wandered.
Move on to the next question. Yep.
So, question: think we will get any more info on the Polaris this year? I sure hope so. As a Polaris owner,
you answer this one, Algren, and I'll follow up.
I'd like to think so, but if we don't, we don't. I'm not really worried.
I think the Hammerhead will come out first. Just
which ship I think is furthest along?
No. Down the Polaris. He said the Polaris.
Specifically
he did
the
say
Polaris.
Yeah. I don't really care. It
respond.
Doesn't matter. It'll come when it comes.
I'm going to give the same response Hayes and I gave last time this question came up. RSI is not as far along as some of the other manufacturers. We do know they've done the Bengal, so the Polaris is possibly on the table, but I don't think a ship like the Polaris is even remotely needed on the schedule at the moment. Until we get
kind of working on the style guide for the Constellation.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you're going to see the Idris and the Javelin before that. Also, we know the Idris is the test bed for the capital ships. Until we see the Idris on the table, I think you can pretty much take off the table every other capital ship.
I would like to actually say the one thing I would suspect is we're going to see the Hammerhead. And the reason I say the Hammerhead is not only is it actually has a very good building, but they have the Aegis style guide is well established. I feel like they can throw together pieces, especially if they're working on the Javelin. I feel like a lot of the pieces could easily be thrown together for that.
And it's not considered a capital ship, so it kind
and for S42. S42, that's where I expect to see it, because it makes sense lore-wise.
There's 2 things that add to what you've just said there. Algrid said one of them. It's a non-capital ship. And the other one is, if you look at the inside of it, it's rather simple, as in it's turrets, an engineering bay, and a cockpit. And an elevator and some beds and buttons, which is something in all the other... But that's all in the ships underneath it.
Yeah.
When you go into... there's only 2 people in the cockpit. As soon as you go to the Polaris, boom, you've got a heaps bigger cockpit, and this multi-crew thing all comes into play. And I think that's really the main difference between a capital ship and a non-capital, is the multi-crew and how that works is a lot more minimalistic in something like, say, the Hammerhead. So...
Well, I actually think it's going to actually require a lot more coordination, though, than something like an Idris in a way. Just think about the turrets and how you have to aim, focus fire, roll your ship. It'll be interesting.
It'll be interesting to see whether we see the Retaliator before we see the Hammerhead, though. But I'd like to see the Hammerhead. I'd like to see the Retaliator get a rework to bring it up to 3.0 standard.
It still has modules.
It'd be nice to have the modules. It'd be nice to see the turrets working well. It'd be nice to see all the other stuff. And in that sense, I could see it working with the Hammerhead. But for Polaris, if they get it done, they get it done. If it's longer, awesome, because it just means it'll be better because it's further in development. All the bits and pieces will be done. The artwork will be better. They'll be better at it. If I don't get it done, if I get it done now, then great. So I'm not really worried.
I think they're focusing on Squadron 42 military. That's the thing, and the Hammerhead makes more sense.
It does, because it's got that
Hammerhead does
older
make
lore.
more sense because it's older lore. Polaris is new ship, so yeah.
You've just both reminded me of something that I would like to test. Anyone that's from SCA, if you listen to me, I want to get 2 Connies with the 2 guys in the turrets and test it. We haven't really tested how good those new turrets are.
Not
So
that
I'd like
good.
they're not that good?
I
So
have
still
been in
a
a
bit of a way to
turret,
go.
and you were actually fighting against me, actually. The ship I was in actually attacked you, and you didn't notice that because it doesn't show up my name in the turret. And
Okay.
trying to track in some of those turrets, it's a little bit better than before, but the big issue, again, is this is space. You have someone buzzing you at, like, maybe 600 meters per second. Trying to get enough time to hit that person while they're able to dodge, weave, and do all sorts of things in space, it's really difficult, and I really am wondering how they're going to
Especially
slow
when your
down the game.
pilot's turning and swerving and rolling.
It's why they slowed down the ship combat. I actually think they need to make some kind of reason in law that while you're in combat, you can't go fast, or make it so the engines have only ever really worked really fast in a straight line. So when you turn in that, you turn heaps slower.
Well, it's not hard.
they need
You
to
just
ma-
decouple, and you just go in a straight line and turn and just go boom, 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 boom.
Well, we're going to see that again. We're going to see that again this year because we know that the combat's on the table. They've talked about a getting the commander and reworking that in the Star Marines. So I think we're going to see that. The combat and flight mechanics are really core to this game,
They need
and the on-foot Star Marines. Sorry.
with
Anyway,
turrets.
next question.
Well, I'd like to say one last thing before we leave, and this is actually important, kind of in a way, to the players and actually any other ship that has a lot of turrets. They need to work on where they place the turrets a little bit better, I think. I think that's part of their problem. There's way too many blind spots, and there's way too many spots in where if your ship rolls, you lose that. It's built like an aircraft, like a World War II aircraft, where you have actually atmosphere to worry about, and I think they need to get out of that mentality, put turrets in a few different locations on some of these ships, and it may actually improve turret gameplay to something viable.
That comes back to what Algrid said about ship metrics. A lot of those ships, they kind of bunged together and didn't really give a shit about where things landed. So now they're kind of paying the price, I think, a bit. But yeah.
All right.
Next question.
All right. For all the big ships, the org I'm in warned that it is better that you control ships by yourself instead of having to rely on others. Do you believe NPCs could fill roles within an explorer? Not as well.
Probably not as well.
I will.
And I think scanning is going to be a huge part of exploring. So if they're just scanning and you're reading the data that's coming in, yeah, sure.
Like, I think they will be able to do the job. They probably won't. In some cases, they'll do it better. In some cases, they won't do it as well. I don't think you can ever account for that human illogical behaviour, where sometimes a human will do something that's totally unexpected. Whereas a computer, the AI will act according to its programming and act according to the character that AI has.
Yeah, I think
Will they be able to do it? Yeah.
An example of that would be, say you've got it set up for the NPC scanning for gold or something like that, and while they're scanning for gold, they find a whole jump point, but they never tell you about it because you've just told them to look for gold.
Or they find a bunch of platinum or something else, like,
Yep.
and you're like, oh well, we could have mined that.
The information's there, it's just not been picked up. And so I think that's where a human will actually potentially be better. So you get a really good human player on there, and it will, they will own any AI you get in, even an expert. But you get a beginner human player on, someone who's never done scanning before, doing scanning for the first time, then a mediocre AI might do just as well.
I think Wraith's just said something in chat there that kind of makes a lot of sense. What about setting an NPC to pilot and give nav points, and the player does the scanning? I think at very least, an AI is going to be able to fly between A to B. I think you'll be fine with that.
And
Fly between A and B. I reckon AI, if I've got a ship that has turret and I need extra crew, AI we're going to go in the turret. But first in, they'll fill that role. Will I be able to have an AI who pulled in?
they're probably better than humans than turrets. I hate to say NPCs.
Yeah, they might. So I'm thinking, well, AI definitely turrets. I'm thinking humans where I can get them. but it doesn't mean they're not going to. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean the human will be better. It just means that, yeah. Will AI do the job? Yeah. Will they do as good a job? In some cases, yes. Probably in most cases, no.
I think
turrets. Can you operate a ship with the AI? Yes. And that's a good thing because you're not always going to have your mates around to fly with you. But don't go buying yourself an Idris and saying, "Hey, I've got this Idris, I can man it with." Right. So,
Right. Next question.
Next question. All right. Do you think with the whole 2018 being the year of ships, they will be also releasing a whole bunch of professions to match the ships? Any thought on which professions will be coming out? I actually think they're going to be expanding some of the smaller ships.
Hang on. It's professions we're going to see coming out are going to be mining, hair, salvage. What else was it? Scanning.
Well, I'm going to say the ones they stated in that report.
I actually think you might see, and it wasn't listed there. I think you might see the basics of bounty hunting come in, and the only reason I say that is because you're hiring people as mercs. I think that even in its most basic format, not necessarily capturing, but hey, go take out this player for me that's been irritating me. I think that might actually be your basics right there.
So types of things they've said are coming out or planning to come out this year. Mining, salvaging, mobile refueling, so starfarers getting their job, which will probably also be the starfarers being able to scoop fuel and process it. Repair, as well as giving the players the ability to create their own missions. That'll be things like come and fly the ship with me. That's like hiring mercs. That's like getting transport. That's like getting a refuel mission. That's like. So that's what's coming.
Yeah.
Well, I see the Vulture coming out soon. I know they mentioned that vote, and the Drake Vulture was mentioned. I think that's actually going to lead to a wave of smaller ships.
Yeah, I would see that salvage ship coming out possibly before the mainland too.
Well, but
yeah,
for that zero level salvage.
As me and Hayes have said before in a few shows, they tend to be doing, if you think of the way to release ships in the most profitable way, you do the larger ships first, then the smallest, then the medium. And that is if you come at it from a PR standpoint. So if they've already moved into some of the smaller ones like the Prospector, and now they mentioned the Vulture and a few others, I think you'll see they'll fill out with those, and then the medium ones. And then you've also got to look at the profession as a whole. So if you look at something like salvaging, really, I don't think that there will be much. Well, now the way they've gone with a ship that kind of goes inside, so that's more like a scrapper ship. I think your medium ship will be something more Constellation size, possibly like we talked about with the crushing. But then if you go into another profession like mining, is there room for another ship between the Prospector and the Orion? You got to, and there probably is, but there will be some professions where they only need 2-size ships or one. So you need to. You need to kind of look at that from a logical standpoint and see how. Because if you look like something like science, I could literally see another 2 ships coming out for science.
Two ships for science easily.
Well, you've got a capital size Endeavour, you've got a small Sen, and then I think you could have a medium and a large. So it really. Even and can you split it even further? Can you have a farming ship? I could see a ship that's literally just 2 biodomes that pulls along and goes to different areas. Imagine a whole sea that just had 2 biodomes on it. Boom.
I see modules more or less, because things that they could do, they could plop a whole bunch of different modules onto the whole series. In addition to one of my favorite ideas was. And this harkens back to a previous episode. Why not have the Origin 600 have a science module eventually tossed on there? We've talked about that before, but I think that would actually be the easiest thing, is take some of these ships that are semi-modular and actually expand on them instead of bringing in certain new ships.
just to answer Darren's question there, one of the ones that we talked about, Darren, for Consolidate Outland's next ship is the medium mining vessel, because they are kind of the pioneer out there type of thing. You know, so you've got your little ship that takes you from A to B, and you've got your pioneer that builds you your structures. So another out there, you know, think of it like the gold rush. That's how I always kind of consider Consolidated Outland, is they would want something so someone could get a small mining operation started. And it would be a ship that is a small ship that you can mine with. Pioneer might fill that role, but maybe it's got some really basic level of refinement as well. So it's like a small refinery / mining ship that's just not quite as big as the
I could see them also doing the truck stop idea. You know, kind of you've got your outpost being built out on the rim, and you need to be able to supply it. And so we build up a we get our trading post set up. I could see it, you know, being that.
Yeah, so are you talking about like the space station ship? Is that?
Oh,
yeah, kind of like a truck stop type, a big mobile. You know, brings it in, sets up. You set up your truck stop idea. It doesn't move, that type of thing.
There are certain ships also that transfer between different manufacturers. Like I could also see that as a MISC, but that'd be a really good opportunity to have a MISC / Consolidated Outland hybrid. I think hybrid ships is a really. I think it's a real missed opportunity to not have some hybrid manufacturers. And the other cool thing from a law point of view is you can also go the other way and go, we're Anvil, we would never ever work with Aegis. You know, like so that type of thing. So you could actually have there's this ship that's made by Consolidated Outland and MISC, and it's this ship, and it's a really rare ship. And it's old because they no longer work together because something happened and they just refuse to make any more.
Well, think of Origin, because Origin, if you actually read the lore, they are actually primarily thruster manufacturers. So could you imagine people that are specialties in engines and everything who do luxury ships partnering with someone to give that high-end luxury performance in a working man ship? I would actually see Origin and Consolidating Outlands actually having a closer relationship than anything else, because you now toss on high-end with some affordability in there. And that
just got an idea from one of the things someone said in chat. That's another thing that could be interesting. You know how you got your Banu Merchantman? It's a big flying bazaar. What about a ship from Consolidated Outland that's literally like a one-man store? And the ship I'm thinking of, this doesn't sound really weird, in Fifth Element, you know the Chinese guy that flies around on his takeaway ship? That. You know, so it's this little ship that's a flying store.
Your Wild West snake oil merchant guy.
Yeah, kind of.
Well, that'd be interesting. We also need a transport ship, and this is the thing, we need a smaller transport ship. Like, imagine Freelancer size, but with just a bunch of seats. Something like small, like a Learjet or something. And
you're meaning a personnel transport ship.
Yes, because here's why. Transport is coming in.
Hang on. There's a variant of the Genesis Starliner that is made for troop transport.
There is.
Yep.
So I didn't want you to go into a whole spiel when we already got one.
Well, I wasn't talking about troop transport. I was talking about luxury passenger transport. I was talking about like
but there's also a variant of the Genesis Starliner that does that.
Yeah,
but it's too. I know, but the Genesis Starliner is kind of large. You need something
890
small.
Jump.
No. At the moment, it's only a little bit bigger than a Constellation. It's gonna have to grow, but
I'm expecting it to grow quite a bit. I'm just saying. I would expect you to need something in between. Its concept. Here's the deal. There's so much.
I expect it to be huger than a Constellation as well. I can't see it fitting everything they say it can do and not be.
I expect it to be about 890 jump size, actually, because here's why. Not only do you have all the passengers, but you have the accommodations, and you have to carry the cargo that comes with the passengers. I just see it just based on item 3.0. They're building it off of the old Matrix. It's going to grow way larger than any of the others in some ways, because you have to carry the passengers, fit all that in, and then fit all that extras. So.
Yep, absolutely.
Any more questions, Dyson?
Oh, we got plenty. Let's see.
plenty, but he can't find any.
Well, I'm quickly reading through everything again. Complete theory crafting question. I think we kind of touched on this, but it's worth still mentioning. What do you think Consolidated Outlands Nick ship is?
We just did talk about
just did
that.
that one.
Well,
That was the question we just answered.
yeah.
So we're out of questions then?
I actually am surprised, but we're out of questions, and I have to say one thing. There's one comment I wanted to mention. Big Benny's food truck. Amen.
Well, that's probably the only thing. That's probably the only thing that Reliance actually.
Wouldn't that be a whole B that is like just got signs on the side?
No,
Or whole A?
it was a no, there is a whole B, but they do have a Big Benny signed on the side. But there was the Reliant, which they did the skin for April.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so that's about the only Big Benny's delivery truck that seems to be worth its salt. But
All right then. I think we'll wrap it up for today. I will say very quick before we log off, Hayes is been working really long this week, but he should be back tomorrow. We're hoping to do another show tomorrow, and our topic should be along the lines of we were going to pick 5 things each that we think need to go into the game. And what was the topic that you changed? You kind of changed it, Algar, was it? Because I said sooner rather than later, and you changed it to a very nice one.
I can't remember. I was
Yeah.
5 things
So
I'd like to see in the game.
Yeah.
Well, I like sooner rather than later. It makes sense.
So 5 things that we think need to go in relatively soon to improve the state of the game. So we'll be talking about that, and we'd also like to get some feedback from you guys and see if we can get a really nice consolidated thing of 5 things that we want to see go into the game sooner rather than later, because there's definitely some issues there. I don't think we were going to include bugs. I think we're going to really look for feature sets. So things like, to give an example, would be the service beacons. I think that's going to be a really big thing when that goes in.
Yep.
But then things also that they haven't thought of, I think will probably be the things that I'd like to see.
Yes.
Anyway,
Because most of the things that they've mentioned in the thing were the things I was thinking, oh yeah, that's what we want, that's what we want.
cool. Do you want to wrap it up for me, please, Dyson?
Well, guys, again, please remember to like and subscribe, and stay tuned to our next episode. And one thing I do want to plug, we are currently working on a series of episodes for people getting into the game. So if you know anyone getting into Star Citizen for the first time, please send them to those videos. It's a short, sweet, concise set, basically on getting started in Star Citizen.
Yeah, and we've been talking about possibly redoing when the new website comes out. So we've just done them. Literally did them just.
Well,
at the end
we
of the
still
year.
have 2 more,
Two
but
to go.
we're working
Yep.
on. They're in the editing and possibly remaking process.
Yeah, so if we release them, I think we'll probably even re-release them after that. Film them again with the new website. Anyway, all right. So I've been Execute. Above me is
Algaro,
and
I'm
above
Dazine
him-
was here, and we'll see you around.
Algaro's frozen. Oh no, he's not.